Welcome everyone to today's Explainer. Right off the bat, I want you to imagine a place where you can explore ancient fortresses that somehow withstood absolutely impossible sieges. A place where you can completely immerse yourself in an 8,000-year-old wine culture. And literally wander through 7.7 kilometers of underground tunnels carved straight into the side of a mountain. I know, it sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel, right? But it's totally real. Today, we're unpacking a comprehensive travel guide to Kvareli, which is this really remarkable city in the Kakheti region of Georgia.
Okay, let's dive into this meticulously planned itinerary for your future trip. We're going to cover 1. The Oasis of Kakheti, 2. Ancient faith and legends, 3. Royal capitals and fortresses, 4. The Uncrowned King's home, and finally 5. Wine tunnels and lakes.
Starting right off with Section 1, the Oasis of Kakheti. Finding the perfect balance. So Kvareli has actually been a hub of human habitation since the Bronze Age, but today it's really best known as the beating heart of Georgian winemaking, specifically sitting right in the microregion famous for Kinsmarley wine. To truly grasp its magic, you kind of have to picture the geography. You've got this perfect balance of two extremes. To your north, you have the dramatic, towering, snow-capped peaks of the Caucasus mountain range. And then, right to your south, stretching out as far as the eye can see, are the sprawling, incredibly fertile plains of the Alazani Valley, crisscrossed by the Alazani River and all its tributaries. This stunning contrast creates the absolute perfect microclimate for both robust agriculture and deep, historical mountain strongholds.
Moving on to Section 2, Ancient Faith and Legends, exploring the Nekresi Monastery Complex.
To start our actual tour, we're traveling up a beautifully forested mountain slope on the Golmburi Ridge. We're heading about 480 meters above sea level to explore this sprawling monument to early medieval Georgian ecclesiastical architecture. Just take a look at this timeline. The history here is incredibly layered, like a giant puzzle. It all starts way back in the 4th century with the construction of the small church, which makes it one of the oldest surviving churches in all of Georgia, by the way. Fast forward to the 6th century, and the complex gains immense prominence when Abivas of Nekresi, who was one of the 13 Assyrian fathers, settles down here. He actually used this site as a home base to actively fight against Zoroastrianism, which the Persians were aggressively trying to promote in Georgia at the time. Over the centuries, the whole complex expanded massively, adding the Nativity the Virgin Basilica, and later these vibrant frescoes, a bishop's palace, and even a defensive tower and a wine cellar.
And this brilliantly illustrates the kind of fascinating, almost mythic history embedded in this region. As you can see, this quote is from a bizarre but super famous local legend. As the story goes, townspeople sought refuge in the Nekresi Monastery during a really intense siege by Muslim Lezgin raiders. To break the siege, the Georgians used, well, a pretty unconventional tactic. They actually slaughtered pigs and poured the blood all around the defensive walls. The raiders were so repulsed they just abandoned the siege entirely. And because of this, believe it or not, locals still observe a tradition during the Nekresoba festival every January 7th, where a pig is sacrificed as an offering. Talk about history leaving a mark, right?
Which brings us to Section 3, Royal Capitals and Fortresses, Gremi and Kvareli.
So from high-altitude religious sanctuaries, our journey takes us down to the tense, dramatic centers of royal power and military defense. First up, let's make a stop at Gremi. Now, today, it might just look like a quiet, stunning Archangel's church sitting on a hill, but from 1466 to 1616, this was actually the capital of the Kakheti Kingdom. Built up significantly by King Levin in 1565, this was once a bustling, 50-hectare historical city. Archaeological digs have revealed a highly developed infrastructure here. They had a closed market area featuring 30 vaulted stone shops called Kaludbox, and even a 16-room hotel, or caravanserai, to host international guests. I mean, they even had a 2-story bathhouse with ceramic pipes bringing in fresh water from the Lapata River. Tragically, though, this flourishing royal city was completely destroyed during the invasions of Shah Abbas in the early 17th century, which forced the capital to shift over to Tel Aviv.
From there, let's move right into the center of Kvareli to face the massive, square-shaped Kvareli Fortress. So the crucial point is this number right here, 206. It represents one of the single most heroic moments in all of Georgian military history.
Back in 1755, the Avarian Khan Nursal Beg rallied a massive 20,000-strong army and completely laid siege to the Kvareli Fortress. The fortress was holding out, but there was a huge problem. The defenders were rapidly running out of gunpowder. And losing this fortress meant losing Kakheti, and very likely Kartli as well. So Kings Timiraz and Erekli II made a desperate offer. They gathered 206 volunteers and promised them total, absolute freedom from serfdom if they could somehow break enemy lines and smuggle gunpowder inside. Well, against all odds, these brave volunteers successfully infiltrated the fortress under the cover of night, resupplying the defenders. This heroic act completely broke the enemy's morale. The siege collapsed and that 20,000-strong army retreated. Just incredible.
Next up, Section 4, the Uncrowned King's home, the Ilia Chavchavadze State Museum.
After taking in all that intense military history, our itinerary brings us back into the town center for a much more intimate look at Georgian identity. Now, if you don't know who Ilia Chavchavadze is, you absolutely need to. He is widely considered one of the greatest Georgians in history. In fact, the people bestowed upon him the title of the Uncrowned King of Georgia. Now, he wasn't literal royalty. Rather, he was a profoundly influential 19th century poet, public figure, and educator. He played a critical, foundational role in preserving and shaping Georgian cultural identity during a time of immense external pressure. The museum right here in Kvareli is spectacular, mostly because it's built around his actual family estate. Here is exactly how you should walk through it. Step 1. Start at the 17th century defensive tower on the property. Ilia was actually born right here on the second floor at dawn on November 8, 1837, while his family was literally taking shelter from an enemy raid. Pretty dramatic start to life. Step 2. Head out into the yard and take a seat beneath this massive 500-year-old walnut tree. This is the exact spot where a young Ilia used to sit with local peasants, just listening to and writing down their ancient folk tales. Finally, Step 3. Finish up at the ancestral Marani or wine cellar. Incredibly, this cellar has 37 traditional kvevris, which are those large clay vessels buried underground. And to this day, every single November 8th, they still press Rakatiteli and Saparavi grapes here to celebrate his birthday.
And finally, Section 5, Wine Tunnels and Lakes. A real hedonist's retreat. After all that walking through history, it is time to shift our pacing to a much more relaxed, inviting tone as we head towards gastronomy and leisure. Honestly, you might want to grab a glass for this part. Kvareli is home to the famous winery Kareba, and 7.7 is a very, very important number. It's the length in kilometers of their underground wine tunnels that are carved directly into the solid rock of the Caucasus Mountains. No way, right? It's huge.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale and purpose of this engineering marvel. It's fascinating. It originally opened back in 1962 specifically for the World Wine Congress. Because it's carved deep into a mountain, it naturally maintains a year-round climate of 12 to 16 degrees Celsius, which, if you know wine, is absolutely ideal for aging. The bottles are kept horizontal or even upside down, just so the corks stay wet. Right now, there are around 26,000 bottles of premium wine resting comfortably in these tunnels, with the oldest collectible bottle dating back 17 years.
But listen, you don't just go there to look at bottles in the dark. The winery offers these incredible, immersive culinary masterclasses that let you really taste the rich, traditional foods of Kakheti. You can learn to distill Georgian chacha, which is a pretty potent local spirit. You can bake traditional bread in a deep clay oven called a tone. For dessert, you can dip strings of walnuts into thickened grape juice to make sweet churchella. You can roast savory meat on a spit, known locally as msfati. And if you happen to time your trip just right, you can even participate in the harvest and press the grapes yourself. It is the whole shebang.
To finish off our curated Kvareli itinerary, we're heading over to Ilia Lake. Named in 2011 in honor of Ilia Chavchavadze, this is just the ultimate spot to unwind. Now, on paper, the specs are definitely impressive. It's a large, 20-meter-deep lake nestled right at the base of the mountains. But the vibe, that's what you really go for. One side is bordered by lush, dense, deciduous forests, and the other side is lined with saparavi vineyards, cycling paths, and a gorgeous resort. At night, this glowing sign reading, "I love Kakheti," lights up over the water. It is simply the perfect place to sit back, reflect on the day, and enjoy a glass of local Kinsmarali wine.
So let's recap. We've walked through early Christian monasteries that repelled invaders with legendary and slightly bizarre tactics. We've stood in fortresses saved by 206 brave volunteers fighting for freedom. We've explored the very birthplace of Georgia's uncrowned king, and we've literally wandered through kilometers of wine carved into the solid rock of the Caucasus. The history, the culture, the gastronomy, it is all perfectly balanced right here in the Oasis of Kakheti. So my question to you is, what are you waiting for to add Kvareli to your travel bucket list? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.